name's Anne Johnson and I'm the Nail Technology Educator for Skills and Learning. Today I just wanted to show you how to do some sort of hints and tips on removing a gel polish. In normal circumstances, obviously I would recommend that you have it professionally taken off, but during the lockdown, obviously that's not an option for everybody. So I just want to share with you how to remove it correctly and safely so that there's no damage to the nails. So what you're going to need to remove your gel polish is some acetone, which you can order online, but make sure you use it from a reputable company. You're going to use some tin foil, which we cut into strips, which will be enough to cover the whole finger and the nail. We're going to need some cotton wool pads. Okay, and what I normally do with the cotton wool pads is I cut them into quarters. I can just demonstrate to you. So I'm just going to show you, I'm going to cut them into quarters. Which I would use for all the 4 fingers, and then I would leave it into a half if I was covering the thumb, okay, because you need a little bit of a larger area. Orange stick, which again you can purchase online. I would use a 240 grit file to file the natural nail, and to remove the coating, which I'll show you in a moment, I use a 180 grit file, but one that I've sort of used previously, so it's not quite as harsh. So what we're firstly going to do is we're going to remove this top layer of the nail. It's like the top seal, and it helps the acetone to penetrate. So I'm going to very gently just file from the outside, from the side wall of the nail into the middle on one side. You want to do it fairly gently because gel polish is actually quite thin and you don't want to break down into the colour coats. So it's just literally to break the seal. Try not to do it too fast either, because you can build up heat sensation for the client, which can be a little bit uncomfortable. And then I'm going to move my file over, and from the other side wall into the middle, I'm going to file again over the top. Basically what you want to do is to make the whole nail coating a dull finish. So if you can see any shine, that's where you need to remove a little bit more from. So it should be nice and dull in appearance. So if you kind of have a look at the difference between that nail that hasn't been done, it'll give you an indication. Because we've got some nail art on this one, it sort of makes it a little bit easier, because often you just remove the actual nail art design. So just keep doing until you've broken all that seal. If you can see, this one's chipped a little bit on the free edge, so make sure you don't catch that free edge either onto the natural nail, because we're trying to obviously avoid any potential damage. Okay, when you're happy with that, I'm just then going to get my acetone. That's fine. So I'm going to get my acetone and I'm going to apply it to a quarter. Make sure it's thoroughly soaked of that cotton wool. I'm going to place that over the nail, and then I'm going to get the tin foil and I'm going to wrap it around the finger. What I do is I bring that in so it's fairly tight, and then wrap it up onto the top again, and then I'm going to place that over the back of the nail, so it should be quite nice and firm and tight. And what that does is that keeps a little bit of the heat in there, which will speed up the process. So I've left them 10 minutes minutes, and I'm just going to have a look and see if they're ready to come off. Sometimes you do need slightly longer, so I would, if I find after the 10 minutes it's not ready, then I would put the acetone and the tinfoil back on and leave it another 5 minutes before I checked again. Now I use a hands down pad, but you don't need to use one of them. You can just use cotton wool, or if you have a lint-free pad, you can use that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak that in acetone. Okay, so I've got the acetone on my lint-free pad there. I'm going to get my orange stick now. When I go to remove the tin foil, what I want to do is wiggle it from side to side, because that does help to remove any little bits. Okay, now with my orange stick, I want to go in and I want to gently start to scrape the nail coating off. Do not force this, and do not gouge it into the nail, because that's where most of the damage is caused with incorrect removal of these gel polishes. Okay, so just gently, and as you can see, that's coming off quite nice and gently. If I found there was any areas that were a little bit stubborn, then I would put the tin foil back on, and as I said previously, I would re-soak that. But this is coming off quite nicely. I'm just going to use my pad that's soaked with acetone just to remove some of those little bits of polish, so I can see what still needs to be removed. That often can just help those little last bits come off as well. As I said, it's a gentle action. Never gouge this orange stick into the nail plate. It's also going to be a little bit soft at this stage, because obviously you've had a coating on the nail plate. So we need to be very careful that we don't create any damage to that nail plate. And as you can see, that's it completely removed. It will go a little bit white in colour because we've used acetone, and that does dry the nail plate out slowly a little bit. But as you can see, that's removed it nicely, and I will continue to do the other ones. So as you can see, we have removed the gel from the nails now. They will look a little bit white in colour because we've put the acetone onto them, but we do need to look after them at this stage, because obviously they are going to be a little bit soft from where they've had a nail coating on them. So using cuticle oil is a really good thing to use, and I would recommend you use it at least once a day. Probably for the first week of removing your gels, I'd probably use it twice a day. You can again purchase a good cuticle oil from online, but again make sure it's with a reputable company. So I will apply some of that in a moment. What you can also do is obviously file the nails. Just if you are going to file the nails, just make sure you use a 240 grit file. You don't want anything lower than that, because it would be too harsh on the nails. So I'm just going to put some cuticle oil on. And I'm going to apply it to the base around the cuticle, and I'm going to rub it all up onto the nail plate. I want to massage this in really well, because we want to get oil back into that nail plate, because we've just stripped it all out. It's a really good idea to do it at bedtime, because that does give you the most benefit, because obviously you're not using your hands, keep washing them, etc. And bearing in mind, particularly at the moment, we're going to be washing our hands quite a lot. So I'm going to do that to every nail. It's a really good idea to put a base coat on your nails as well, because that will help to give them some protection. You can buy specific base coats for your particular nail type. So for instance, if you had a dry brittle nail, you can get a base coat specifically for dry brittle nails. you can see already what difference that makes to the nail plates. If you'd like to learn more about our industry and you feel that you have the skills, the motivation and the enthusiasm to pursue a career in the nail and beauty industry, then please check out our courses. Our courses run from September until July and they're at varying levels to suit all. Hope you found this information helpful. Thanks for watching and please share.